Hello and welcome to the 1000 subscriber special mini stash for Seddon and Laceys Comic Stash.
I like that term, mini stash.
So for this, there won't be the usual thing.
Like a young teen who can't properly grow a moustache yet, a mini tash.
So no reading corner in this episode, but what we will be doing is a look over a 1000th episode or 1000th issue even
Yeah,
for a 1000 subscriber special.
yeah. It seemed to be very apt. Although, like when we get to, and I say when we get to, if we get to something like 2,500, I don't think there is a 2,000. Although 2,000 AD numbering might be up at that, but. I mean, I remember. I don't know about you, but I remember kind of starting reading comic books, and we were nowhere near thousands at that point. I don't think
No.
anything had even reached 500 at that point, and it was one of the things I loved about comics was the idea that there were hundreds, in most cases, of stories that I hadn't read yet. So there was that kind of I can go back in time and get it, and of course that collector's mentality of once you started on a numbering system, you keep going. Now, one of the hardest times for me in comics makes it sound like I've been down a mine or something, but one of the hardest kind of parts for me was when we hit that kind of stage of comic books where loads of things got renumbered to one,
Yeah.
and to push sales. And I know most of the companies now have started things from scratch again and then gone back to old numbering. So it is a bit of a shame, I think, that a lot of these didn't like get to there by their natural point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is still nice to see it, and regardless of whether there've been changes in numbering along the way. For this one, which we're doing Detective Comics, I mean, it's just pretty amazing, isn't it? That these characters that were created, uh, in some cases, so long ago, but probably like on a whim, have managed to last this long. You know, it is
Yes.
truly remarkable.
Yeah. So obviously, when we were looking, there was Action Comics had a 1000th issue,
Yeah,
and Detective Comics had 1000th issue. Um, there's probably some Marvel stuff that we didn't look at.
there is a Marvel 1000. They do a thousandth kind of issue or a thousandth some sort of celebration for Marvel, but I don't know. We wanted to kind of go with I say the originals, like DC just have that extra chunk of history to them, don't they? So we
Yeah.
wanted to stick in that ballpark for this.
So as we said, it is DC's 1000th issue of Detective Comics, and for this, they did a special 92-page extravaganza where they brought in all the big gun writers.
Yeah, they really did, didn't they? There is a lot of big names from not just from comic books. There's a lot of big names that come along for this issue.
Yes, so everyone had their little story to tell. There was no overarching thing in this issue. It was
Yes,
literally
some longer than others, weren't they? But like
yeah,
generally, you're looking at like a few pages, sort of 5 6 page storylines with some running just a little bit longer than that.
yeah. So we open up with Scott Snyder, who, if you've watched any of the Stash stuff, know that we love his Court of Owls run on Batman,
We do, we love him. He's a
and
good egg.
he brought us his little tale, The Longest Case, where Batman has to hunt down clues from many years to find his way to the Guild of Detectives. So obviously we're not going to do blow by blow on these. What did
Yeah,
you
more like
think?
kind of thoughts and feelings. Well, it's got Greg Capullo on art, hasn't it? And
Yeah,
again, one of the things we loved about that one is his art's amazing, isn't it? I will say I really liked the idea of the story. I liked the idea of Batman having a case that he's been working on for years and it being a challenge to him, and ultimately it turned out that it was almost his entry exam for
yeah,
to get into the guild. And I like the guild. I like seeing those characters. Maybe a nice appetizer. I probably made me more want to see more of the Guild of Detectives
yeah,
than I got here. So yeah, from that side, very, very good. And the only thing I will say is that I thought that Greg Capullo's work wasn't as good as I tend to feel like his work is on Batman, but
Mm.
his work on all the other characters was amazing. But yeah, I don't know, just felt a bit rushed, I thought.
Yeah, it's that thing of like you don't know whether or how long they had in advance to know they were getting these
Yeah.
and stuff. So was it a, oh, we want you to do this and we need it next month?
Yeah, and I guess what
Crack
else he
on.
was working on at the time. So yeah, he may well have been fighting deadlines. But yeah, no way bad. But yes, I think we got so treated for such a long time of his Batman, his
Yeah,
bat work that I think when it's slightly below par, it's weirdly even more noticeable.
yeah. So the next one we had was brought to us by Kevin Smith of Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy and Dogma and
Yeah,
nothing past Clerks 2 fame.
yeah. I'd have to check my IMDb, but yeah, I think you're probably right. I don't think there's anything past Clark's.
And Manufacture for Use, which sees Bruce in disguise going to the Gotham gift shop, which is full of criminal stuff from back cases.
Yeah, I quite liked that element of it because you could see stuff in the shop, couldn't you?
Yeah,
And you know, like there was same way as when sometimes when the back case drawn and you see stuff in the background and you go, oh, I remember that from something, or I'd like to know the story of how that got there.
yeah. In such, Bruce buys the gun that was the gun that shot his parents, which he then melts down to make a logo for his suit out of because he doesn't want the gun to cause any more death
Yeah,
for anyone else. Um, Not a great one. It was, as I say, with all these, they are very short. As I said, I love the fact of looking for the little Easter eggs on
yeah.
stuff from other characters and things. But yeah, the overall premise was like, meh,
See, I think I liked the end of it. I think I liked the fact that he melted down the gun to put in his chest plate to cover the heart that was broken as a kid. There was something in that, but yeah, you know, get in there. It's just, okay. Lovely art again though. They're big guns galore. They bring out Jim Lee on the art on this one, but yeah, there was something to this story, and I do wonder actually whether this might have been better longer, given
yeah,
more pages to breathe, maybe a bit more about how the gun got there and stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of liked the punchline or the full stop, but I was kind of meh, to get to that point.
mm. Next, we had Paul Dini, who is the guy, the creator behind the Batman animated series, and his Legend of Knut Brody, the proverbial goon that
Goon.
constantly fucks up.
Yeah,
That turns out that the reason he keeps fucking up is it's the Bat Gang in
yeah,
disguise all the way
yeah.
through. I thought this was really funny. I love a goon. As if anyone who's watched our stuff before knows how much we love nameless goons.
And integrating that nameless goon theory into a wider story is probably right up our alley, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm with you. I thought this was like certainly the standout of the three that we'd had so far, and for me, this is where it really kind of picked up and piqued my interest. I think Paul Dini is shown in all of the stuff that he did for like Batman the animated series, but also like you know he's done runs in the comics as well. That he's got a really good eye for a story that's a little bit aside from what other writers would do.
Yeah.
So other writers would have written a Batman story, whereas he kind of goes, well, let's look at the stuff that happens in the universe around it. And of course, it is, as I say, the Bat family, and it is intrinsically linked. But just got a really good eye of telling a compelling story from a very interesting angle.
Yeah. And the thing is, the thing I did love about this as well is it was given more pages than some of the others
Yeah,
because there was
yeah,
that thing of how he fucked over Mad Hatter, how he fucked over Joker and
and I,
Harley, how he
and I
did
think
it to
again, it was nice to see the villains, wasn't it? It
yeah,
was nice to see the villains kind of in a talking heads, almost reality TV show kind of thing, where they're kind of going, "Oh yeah, I remember that Dick. I remember the time he messed up something for me." But yeah, I was really impressed with this one. I thought this was really good.
it is very much the sort of thing that you'd expect to see an episode of animated series being like one of the mid-season episodes that
Yeah,
isn't like for the main story. And yeah, I said was my early favorite on
yeah,
this.
yeah. Front runner at this point, isn't it? That's for sure.
Yes. So next we have Warren Ellis, who brought us Bat Design, which is Batman in a warehouse with battleship style commands to blow up boxes that looked a little bit like a Batman training exercise. This one left me quite cold. I was just like, eh. It looked pretty. The
Yeah, I was
explosions
gonna
and
say,
jumping was very
uh,
pretty.
an art style, very different to what we'd had up until now, wasn't it? This one was a lot darker. This one felt a lot more like Dark Knight, rather than I think what we've seen is more what probably Batman's been looking like for a few years, and in on Dini. But yeah, this one had I'm gonna say old school. Jesus, there's been a thousand episodes. I'm doing this one, 1,000 issues, so really not old school, but probably that more darker, foreboding,
Mm,
scary Batman element to it on the art.
yeah, and it said it. This one, I don't know whether it would have been better if it was longer, but it just seemed like a random action scene just for the sake of a random action scene because he was like, I've got 4 pages. What can I do?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, just for sort of some context here as well, Warren Ellis uh, has written a lot of comic books, but also as his name isn't as revered as it once was because there's been a lot of allegations against him of sexual abuse. Now, I say allegations because I don't think, I don't know, but I don't think any of them have come to court or anything like that. But certainly someone who probably at the time
Mm,
was considered for the 1,000th episode, but I think if you fast forward maybe 2 years, I don't think he's getting a writing gig on it. But
yeah. So next we have Denny O'Neil and Return to Crime Alley, where Leslie is talking to Bruce and wants him to remember that his parents weren't weren't just dead; they were murdered.
murdered, yeah,
And some oiky little punk kids who had stole some masks and a gun from a shop try to take and attack Leslie and Bats, only for Bats to beat down the kid. And just before he smacks the last one, Leslie says, "This isn't to save him; it's to save you."
yeah.
Um, this one I liked, but I felt it needed a little bit more air to breathe on there. I mean, it could have done with an extra couple of pages.
Yeah, I mean, Denny O'Neil's had like a long history with Batman as a character, written a lot of them, and I felt it really come across. I felt like there was a real understanding of Batman, or certainly the Batman of a again certain era. You know, Batman's transitioned over the times, and yeah, I like what they did here. But I'm with you. I think again could have benefited from being longer. But yeah, I quite liked it.
Yes. Next, we had Christ Priest and Heretic, or Heretic even,
Heretic, yeah,
where a member of the League of Assassins has been murdered.
murder,
Batman goes and confronts Ra's al Ghul, and then goes and confronts the brother of the murdered member of the Assassins because he was a turncoat to his brother because he wanted out of the League, and it's all Batman's fault. He'd put the
yeah.
idea in his head. Um, this was one where I was like, I want this story over 3 or 4 issues. I want.
We really are sharing a brain for this thousandth issue because I was with you. Yeah, I'm exactly the same as you on that.
Yeah, this is the sort of story that you want to have a longer arc with
Yeah,
than.
felt like a teaser, didn't it? Felt like a
Yeah.
teaser to a limited series or something like that, and I'd be down for it. It'd be a great Neil Adams art as well. But yeah, I really like this. And yeah, the only negative I'd say is what you're saying now, going I want more, and I don't think I'm getting more. So I guess it's a
No.
negative, but
So next we had Brian Bendis with I Know, where Penguin tells Bruce, both when they're in their very old man states, that he knew all along that Bruce was Bats. And he explains how he found out with in a group meeting with Joker and all the rest of the gang of murderous, horrible criminals, where he'd worked out that Bruce and Bats were never in the same place at the same time and managed to get around these things. And confesses to him that the only reason that Bruce was still alive in his old age was because Oswald knew. But he didn't want to kill him because he wanted to torture him in another way to make him stay as the Bat, only for Bruce to shock him at the end. This, again, I really like this one. Again, could have been a little mini series out of it of like
yeah,
extending it for a couple of issues on like how he got from point A to point B to work out that he was Bruce, and then maybe having a few bits when they were of younger age, where you see things that Penguin does to not kill Bruce when he could have done, or things like that, just to
yep.
drop those little sprinkles in a little bit more. But yeah, no, I really like this one.
Art on this one's stunning as well. Alex
Yes.
Maleev, who spent a lot of time working with Brian Michael Bendis along the way, specifically for me, era I really loved was them two on Daredevil together, and I think they're looking at the aged Bruce and the aged Penguin. Yeah, great. Absolutely looks bleakly gorgeous is probably how I
Yeah.
describe it. And yes, there was enough in the story. There was a few bits. I liked the punchline at the end. I liked the fact that Bruce knew all along and then
Yeah.
electrocuted him. Do you know what? I think if that hadn't have been there, I wouldn't have liked it as much. If it had just been like, oh, I knew all along Penguin, because I did think that kind of maybe it was space issues, but that felt a bit weak to me. But yeah, I think when it hit that end point, yeah, really enjoyed it. More of this plays from these two. I can't remember because it's like 2019. I know this is like Bendis kind of starting in the world of DC and writing a lot of DC,
Mhm.
and I think it's been with mixed results. Certainly not the reverence that probably his Marvel run has. But I don't know whether him and Alex Maleev do anything else together at DC. But pretty much, if they did, I'd buy it and read it. So
Yeah.
yeah, really liked it.
So next we have Jeff Jones with The Last Crime, where we see Batman and the family turn up at a birthday party where there are 12 dead. They think that it is the holiday murderer again, but they see that, well, he never killed everyone in one day. What's
Yeah,
going
there was
on?
like with singular victims before, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah,
And then they blame Calendar Man, only to find that Calendar Man is one of the victims. Ace, we get our first appearance of Ace, the bat dog, deciding that he would eat the stale bread but won't go anywhere near the cakes. They realise that it is poisoned.
yeah.
We
It's why
see
every household should have a dog.
we see that this was set up by the son of Joker, who killed himself during this, and this is seen as the end of crime in Gotham.
Yeah,
As we go to the last page where we see it's Batman's birthday and he's blowing out his birthday cake and making his birthday wish. This one started well, but I felt it dropped off a cliff quickly with the Oh, and Joker's son, who did it, is dead as well, and there's no crime, and meh.
Bearing in mind how short it is, this one never captured me on any level. This was the one where I really like. Let's say it's 6 pages long. It felt like 600 to me. But I don't know. I just didn't click with me whatsoever. And a shame because Jeff Johns I love as a writer. But yeah, really just an out for me. This one felt like the most like filler with nothing really to say. And I guess like the theory is that, that Batman and the family will outlast crime. Blah, 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 blah. No,
Yeah.
just didn't do it out for me.
So next we have our Lord and Savior James Tinian the Fourth with Precedent, where we see a young Dick Grayson in the house of Bat, where Bruce and Alfred are discussing whether they should adopt him and take him in, only for him to overhear what the secret stories is,
Hanging from a chandelier.
hanging up a chandelier, and him becoming Robin. This again was another one where I could have had this as a full 32-page story of getting to A to B instead of the
Yep.
5 or 6 pages that we have.
In such a short space of time, it done a really good job, I think, of establishing why Batman has Robins, but also the considerations that he went through. Because he says himself, doesn't he? Like it won't just be this one.
Yeah.
If I kind of open my mind, my heart, or anything to this, but yeah, I thought this was great. For such a small amount of space to pack so much content and character considerations, yeah. James Tinian, will you ever do any wrong?
So next we go to your Lord and Savior, Mr. Tom King,
I've heard of him.
with Greatest Case, where we see that all the Bat family have been summoned to a rooftop
Yep.
whilst Bruce is at his parents' grave. They all wonder why they're there. They discuss on where they rank in their detective rankings between all of the family, and even lowering one of them when they realise that Ace is to be
Higher.
counted
Yeah,
in.
yeah. For counting a dog, you go down to 12. What a beautiful line.
Um, I think it's Robin is the one that is that has his little moment of, but did that thing that I did? Don't punish me for it. Don't kick me
I
out
wasn't
for it.
sure whether it was him or Red Hood, but yeah, it's one of the two, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Because
Um,
a lot of it is done in singular panels, but with a lot of dialogue boxes kind of going on around it, isn't it? Like
yeah.
you're hearing a lot of the interaction with the family, with each other, or with Bats when he turns up. So yeah, they're not necessarily on the page as they're speaking
No. Oh, there's a couple of them where Bats is at the
at the
at the
graves. Yeah,
graveside, yet you've
yeah.
still got their conversation going on. So you then get Bats turns up. We get a lovely little family portrait of all of them together. Bat goes to the grave and lays this picture next to his dad's grave. In a not said, but I believe the idea is a sort of look, dad, look what I did.
Yeah. Like I didn't give up. I might have lost you as my family, but look at the family that I've managed to build for myself.
And lastly, we have
Oh, before we go, lastly, what did we think of it?
oh yes, yeah. No, I like this one. Again, it it made sense for the way that it's done with the fact, as I said, the pictures of Bruce being at the graveside and like everyone's
Yeah,
conversation around it because of what this is. You don't need to know who's saying what because you're just
yeah.
overhearing like them
It's more like if you
confuse
listened
them.
into any family party, you don't actually have
Yeah,
to know who any of those family members are. You're just hearing those interactions that you'd hear at a lot of family parties. Yeah,
yeah, and it is that thing of Bat's done good look at what I've done, which I
Yeah,
liked that.
I was a big fan of this one as well. And I put like Tom King, it's a bit of a layup, but yeah, I think this one felt like a fitting concept for a thousandth issue as well.
Yeah,
Like I think like whatever the brief was for them when they were writing these things, I think he kind of went, well, like I want to tell the story of Batman and how he feels about all these people that have come along with him along the way and how that impacts his life. Yeah, I was really impressed with this one.
yeah. And then lastly, we have Peter Tomasi with Medieval.
Yep.
So this was the only one that had something that came after it because this was a
Yeah, continuing
intro.
into episode one, episode. God, we've got to stop saying episode. Issue 1001.
Yes, where it is a lot of splash pages of Batman beating down villains from his past, explaining the trials and tribulations of the Bat, and all the things that he's done, till we see at the very end this new armored up Batman who gave me chills of bat metal.
Arkham Knight, wasn't it? I think they
Yeah,
refer to him as, yeah.
yeah, into the Arkham Knight, which, as I said, just gave me chills of bat metal. And I was like, no, not again.
I mean, this made me not want to read issue 1001. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Like, and again, it's not that it's like terrible. I just, meh. Like it just felt quite kind of generic force. And I'm with you. I did get Azrael Bat kind of vibes from it, and yeah, just I think a shame in an issue where many people I think were at the very least trying to tell some degree of a special story for this thousandth issue. Obviously, they did want people to come back for more, so they said, "Well, look at kind of what we're doing in the monthly," and you go, "Okay, maybe not."
yeah. So overall, as a thousandth issue, I know anyone that's watched the regular comic book show will know that you, Mr. Seddon, are not the biggest fan of these collections of mini
Yeah.
stories as much as I am. But for this special 1000th issue, what were your overalls?
So I really like the Legend of Newt Brody. I really like the Precedent. I really like Batman's Greatest Case. Heretic. There's lots to like, and I think going through it, I think most of them I at least liked, with some that I thought would really stand out. But usual rules apply. A lot of fluff in here, isn't there? And there's not a lot of, I think, definitive enough stories that tell you something that interesting that it is worthy of a thousandth issue. And I must admit, I kind of walked away from this disappointed as a thousandth issue because I don't know. Like, I'm not sort of saying necessarily which creative team, but I think I would have liked just an extra special creative team put together to tell one story. I
Mm,
think I'd have liked that more. But yeah, I don't know. Like, as I say, I do have a bit of a bias against these things, but very much because of how this is.
mm,
I'm dipping in and out of stories, and even though some of them are good, ultimately I feel maybe unsatisfied by it as a whole piece. And I think there's a better whole piece to. Let's be honest, pat all the creative teams of the past on the back for reaching 1,000 issues. I feel like it should
yeah,
be more grandiose than this.
yeah. As I said, I would have maybe culled a few of these to have less teams doing less things, but then giving them more room to breathe, and
Yeah,
sort of, so say if had maybe had five
yeah,
stories, but give them 10, 15, 20 pages each to spread this out a bit more. Give the Tom King one, the James Tinian one more, the Brian Michael Bendis one some more. See and Heretic with Chris Pratt or Chris Priest. I probably wouldn't have had this in here. I would have gone right. I
yeah,
really like this concept. We're saving that. We'll do that
yeah.
later.
they
instead
feel
of
more like you said earlier, like kind of bat stories that you would get anyway.
yeah,
So leave them kind of out of the thousand and try to stick to ones that are really telling you something interesting about the bat mythos, rather than
yeah,
maybe something that is
Wh-
just a cool little story.
yeah, which is why I'd have kept the
Yeah,
James Tinian one with Robin. I'd have kept the
yeah,
Tom King one. I'd have kept the Paul Diani one just because of
because it's
our love of
really good.
goons.
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the thing is that you don't want that being much
Well,
longer than what it is
I mean,
really. I mean,
arguably, and I think I'd avoid. I think I would have avoided Scott Snyder, Tom King, and James Tinney. No, like if I said, if I went for a singular, longer story of a creative team, only because they've been obviously very recently, or were just about to do stuff in that universe.
yeah,
Arguably, maybe because Brian Michael Bendis was coming in, you get him to do it, or even if, and I know this won't be popular with everyone, but even if you let Kevin Smith have the issue, or any of the myriad of great writers that are out there. But I think whatever story I'd have had as the main event, I probably would have kept that Paul Dini one as the. After that, here's a smaller story to see
yeah.
the issue out. Yeah,
But yeah, as I said, this one is there are a lot of good, but there is, as you say, there is quite a bit of filler. Um, as I said, I would have probably knocked it down to just having the four that I've said
yeah.
there, and just gone right. You've extend your page count for a few of you, and do like a special four stories done and had at it instead of putting people in just for the sake of putting them in. But it seemed with some of them,
But as much as I say I would have gone for a singular story, there is a cautionary tale about there, isn't it? Because in our history of doing this show, we spent a lot of time with Nightfall, Night's Quest, Night's End, and one of those issues was your big spectacular issue where we get to see the new Batman, and
five
sometimes doing
hundred.
a sometimes doing a massive story, or this will change the whole universe thing. Um, it doesn't always work either.
No.
And I think you probably have to have a really good story pre-planned, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. Whereas here, I just felt like it was okay, nice to see a load of decent creative teams who have historically done stuff on bats and a couple that never have. But I don't know. Did it feel special enough? No. I think that's
Mm,
truthfully what it comes down to me. Is it just felt like this could have been any month where they wanted to do something Batman-y and they get these
yeah,
creative teams together to tell these stories. So yeah, it just felt a bit flat for me from I guess the special occasion side.
yeah. So, which of these gets your top rating of
Yeah.
each issue
Um,
of the issue?
I don't know. It's quite hard because I do think there's a few that kind of run close, but every time I think about it, I just keep coming back to the legend of Luke Brody and Paul Dini. I think um, probably anyone who's watched this before has heard me talk would expect me to go for a Tom King or a James Tinian one, but I think there was just something special about that Paul Dini one. And maybe because it leans into our proclivities of sort of stories that we quite find quite fun and the goon element, but I don't know. That guy can just craft an amazing story in that universe, and I think
Yeah.
that's what that did more than the other ones that were top contenders. They were more about the family or Bat specifically, or Robin specifically, whereas this one had the Bat family, but felt like it was telling me more about the what happens with everyone who encounters people in this universe.
Yeah, me too. The Legend of New Brody was my favorite. Um, I I love the stories of random henchmen and the fact that this random henchman bounces between every gang and
Yeah,
every criminal. Because that was the thing. If you know us again, how much our love of 66 is. When you'd watch that and see the same henchman with each of the gangs,
yeah,
because they only had so many stunt doubles they could punch around
yeah.
and be like, but you were in you were in Two Face's gang last week. Oh, now you're in Joker's gang.
Wearing a different outfit, it's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we have with all of these for this week, thank you very much all for making us get to 1,000 subscribers. Um,
Yeah.
if you are here for the first time, because it being a 1,000 subscriberish episode and your first comic stash, we do these every week. There is lots
We
of
blooming
them,
do.
not just solely on issues and comic books themselves. We do touch comic book TV, comic book games.
Yeah, the world of comic books is very vast now, isn't it? It's not just
Yeah.
about your comic books off the shelf. Obviously, there's so much out there in the sort of pop culture world, but to a large part, this is what started it all for you and I, wasn't it? We were chatting. Well, if we're honest, Football Manager was probably what started it
Yes.
for us. But we were talking about Football Manager a lot, and then that got us into talking about comics. I don't actually know how we got, but we started talking about comics, and we sort of said, "Oh, I'd love to sit down and talk about comics," and everything that we've done sort of since as and let's be honest, like our relationship has probably been built off of the joint love of comic books, and we don't
Yeah.
always love the same ones, but I think we love the medium,
Yes.
and we love talking to each other about them, except for when you don't pick Transformers in solicits or pick weird stuff,
What
and
do
then
you
the
mean?
love's lost a little bit.
What?
When you
Just because
pick
it's got Satan?
Daughter of Blade was more my
I,
still my most dubious pick you've ever done.
and I read the first one and have never gone
How
back
was it?
again. It
How
was
was it? Yeah,
terrible.
yeah, it was terrible.
And I told you about that when we did it in reading corner that it was
I know,
terrible,
I
and it was a
remember it very well, but what I'm more saying is I didn't need the crystal ball we now have for solicits to tell you that was going to be bad.
well, this is why you are the master and I'm just the apprentice when it comes to comics. You've
Does that not make us both evil? Isn't that how? Or am I just focusing on the Sith because the Sith are cooler than the Jedi?
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, thank you very much for watching. As always, YouTube things like subscribe and ring the bell. If you've read Action Comics 1000, comments down there. If not, if you have DC Unlimited, it's there.
It
Um,
is.
Fiddly boots. Um,
Made it more palatable, by the way, the fact that I was reading it for free. I think I might have been a little bit more critical if I'd paid money for it.
which I did. I have a
Did
copy up
you?
there. Yes, I've got my
Oh, okay.
copies behind my copies of Free Joker. I actually did pay for this when it came
Oh.
out.
And for our thoughts and feelings on the free Jokers, we've got a show on that as well.
Yes. And until next time, with more TV, games, videos, movies, comic books related, as well as series on The Sandman, the
Yes.
comic, not just the TV show, and
Yeah.
other random things that we find that we go on little tangents of. Join us. The water's lovely. And until next time,
I can't swim.
goodbye.